want to turn to Virginia for a second, where today a jury convicted former Governor Bob McDonnell and his wife, Maureen, of public corruption, fraud, and bribery. Authorities say the couple accepted more than $165,000 in gifts and loans from a businessman. Now, the governor was found guilty of 11 of the 13 corruption charges he faced, and his wife also found guilty of 9 of the 13. But you don't have to go all the way to Virginia to find political corruption, certainly. I'm sorry, Richard, I'm going to do this. We turn to our own backyard, where New York State Senator Malcolm Smith, Democrat, accused of attempting to bribe his way onto the New York City mayoral ballot. As a Republican, he's facing a retrial. State Senator Tom Leibus, he indicted in July for allegedly lying to the FBI. His son also accused of falsifying tax returns. And State Senator John Sampson also facing embezzlement charges. Times reporting, quote, Democratic leaders have all but abandoned Mr. Sampson and Mr. Smith. However, on the other side of the aisle, Mr. Leibus seems to have retained party support even after being accused of lying to federal agents who were investigating whether he used his influence to get his son a job at a politically connected law firm. Okay, we're not going to debate whether there's a legality, because you're innocent until proven guilty here, to run for office. However, explain to me why for a second, I know you don't speak for the state Republican Party, but why Tom Leibus wouldn't be treated as an anathema right now with an indictment hanging over him, charges. It's not like some scurrilous thing. The feds are the ones bringing the charges here.
People don't believe he did it. And they may be right or they may be wrong. I know Tom Leibus for a long time. I was surprised to see the charges. He's going to have to go through a process. I think within his own party, people who know him better than I do don't think much of the charges. And if that's the case, what are they supposed to do? Dump him because he's unpopular? Look.
If I follow that threshold, should Sampson and Smith be embraced by the state Democratic Party?
The question, if people believe they're innocent, based on stuff they know about them, they should not walk away from their friends. If people believe they're probably or likely guilty, they should walk away.
Okay, but then you put the electorate in the box, and let's go to Staten Island. You got Mr. Grimm, the incumbent, who's running for re-election, and now we learn the date of the trial. In December, he's going to be facing charges, and to my point, the electorate's in next to an impossible position. They're asked to, in effect, vote for somebody, and you don't know. Imagine you cast a vote for Grimm. Goes to faces charges in December here, and before he's sworn in for the next term in January, somebody they entrusted.
There isn't a voter around who won't hear from Mr. Grimm's opponent or from Senator Sampson's opponent that this is going on. Voters will know whether they care or not. You can criticize them, you can support them, you can have them say, until he's found guilty, I'm not believing the charges. All of that's fine. These are individual decisions made by individual political leaders and individual voters, and that's the way it should be. I've known members of the Assembly and Senate who I didn't have any hard time believing had done wrong. And then I've known people who I had a very hard time believing they did something wrong. Some of them were acquitted, some of them were found guilty. You cannot disqualify either politically or legally a human being based upon charges alone.
You agree,
Sometimes
Dominic?
the governor's wrong.
I do. Mr. Brodsky hit it on the nose. I hate to admit it, but he's accurate. The only thing where he's not accurate is that a lot of this is personality driven. So if you're liked, if you go along to get along, then your colleagues might stand. It depends on the circumstances, first of all. Innocent until proven guilty, as he indicated. And so that's why they're still on the ballot for voters to make the decision. But what's unfair about this is that with party labels, Democrats are going to vote Democratic, Republicans are going to vote Republican. And so even though they're under criminal indictment, chances are they will in all likelihood be reelected. Even though in Malcolm Smith's case, he faces serious opposition. So we'll see what happens.
Both Joe Bruno and Mel Miller, leaders of the Assembly and the Senate, were indicted, reelected, convicted, and then their convictions were overturned. Are they guilty or innocent? Should they have run? Should they have not run? Life is not subject to formulas in these cases.
But Andrew, we get into it. I'm not saying it applies to these three particular gentlemen, but what if they want to engage in matching funds? In a way, we, the taxpayer, are going to be subsidizing their campaigns while we're also going to be paying for the prosecution of them if, under indictment, they go to trial. Is there any line at which you're uncomfortable if a person's under indictment here and they're also running for elected office?
I mean, I wish more candidates could get matching funds. I mean, Richard,
State
you know,
does not have it.
right?
No,
it's not on the state level. On the city level, there would be.
Right.
But if they're the nominated, if they're the nominees of their parties and they qualify under all other rules and regulations, yeah, absolutely. You want to take somebody's pension away because they're under indictment too? You have to go through the process and be convicted. I mean, it taints the process that there are scandals and that there are allegations, but you know, let's take it the most extreme case. Let's say that somebody's arrested for murder and they're the wrong guy. I mean, the whole world's going to turn on them, but they're still qualifying under the law for all of these benefits that you're looking to take away from them. And if they can win the majority of the votes,
let me take this one final
how we
extension
work.
further. And I don't know how you can educate me how it works in the state of New York, but I know in Rhode Island, for example, Buddy Cianci's had not once but twice not only brushes with the law, but with convictions, felony convictions. But yet, he again is eligible to run again for re-election. Does it work that way in New York?
You picked the hardest case. There's a tradition in our religious communities and in the American system that says someone does wrong and tries to get back. It seems to me they ought to be given a chance to do what they do well, even after they've committed serious errors.
You're a counselor, Mr. Brodsky. I call you Esquire, okay?
Well,
my barrister friend. My point is, the
that's
the
not a
Bar
legal
Association does not always allow everybody back into the fold.
Not
as a
everybody should be
profession.
let back. But if when someone truly repents, should they be? I don't believe in the death penalty. I don't believe.
I don't either. I'm not saying kill them. I'm just saying, shouldn't you be precluded from certain professions?
I don't believe in killing them professionally. If they've repented, if they're not going to do it, if there's a reasonable possibility, if they have public talents. I mean, look at Nick Spano. Nick had a tax situation that went away. Nick is, in my experience, an honest and effective public leader. Did a lot of good for a lot of people. I don't want to see him prohibited forever from the public eye. If he can get back in and do good work, as he's trying to do now, God bless him.
Okay. Now, I hear the point, and part of me understands the point. But not every profession looks at it this way. You want to be a cop after you've been convicted of a felony here? There's challenges that go along with reinstatement. Same thing as I mentioned for law. You want to be a doctor? You get arrested for a felony here. Some of the same exact charges. You may not be allowed to practice medicine again. You may or you may not. Should a politician, what standard should we hold elected officials to? If I'm not talking about charge, I'm not talking about an indictment here, I'm saying convicted of a felony, should we preclude folks from the public trust yet again?
Well, there are some states where if you're convicted of a felony, you're automatically barred.
Yeah.
Right. You
Can't
can't
vote, can't run.
Right. So there is a system, but ultimately, Richard, this
But some
rests.
states don't.
Some states don't. Ultimately, this rests with the electorate. Because if the electorate is willing, as Richard pointed out, to give you a second chance, whether we like
So
it
you
or
had no
not.
problem Marion Barry getting reelected?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, someone smoking crack?
I picked an example for a reason.
Crack?
I have a bigger problem with people who violate the public trust than somebody who has a personal malfeasance like Marion Barry
Let's
had.
not rank the wrongdoing.
I agree. I agree. We have the most effective system that we need in place right now, and actually we have too many prohibitions on this in my mind. If you can convince voters, a majority of them, that you deserve the job, you get the job, and that should really be the only qualification that matters. And I wish we were discussing or using the same amount of energy to talk about regular folks who come out of prison who lose their right to vote. I mean, that's a bigger problem in my mind.
Can I tell the story?
Please.
There
I'm
was
sorry.
a well-known Westchester attorney who did wrong, went to jail, but a Republican. And when he got out and said he wanted to get back in, the New York Times called me and said, "What do you think about?" And I said, "Look, what I just
know
said."
this guy? I think
Yes,
I
you
do.
do.
Yes, I do. Okay, go ahead, yeah.
What do you think about so and so coming back in and practicing law? And I said to the Times, "Look, if he wants to do what he wants to do and he's good at it and he's repented, I'll help him." And then I said, "But he's a Republican." And I would say the same thing about an 18-year-old car thief, and the Republicans won't. So if we're going to be forgiving, if we're going to give people a second chance, let's do it for the politicians. But let's also do it for the kid who makes a mistake when he's 18.
Yep. I guess, though,
on, Dominic.
as an electorate, if you follow these three guys, and that's fine, it's up to you. You could also follow the thing of let them get on the ballot if they want, but once bitten, twice shy. We will head to Facebook and Twitter, or I ask you at least to do that and answer a question tonight. Would you vote for a candidate who is under indictment? And certainly a few of you out there face that very choice. Coming up next, policy versus politics. Is political newcomer Zephyr Teachout, just to name one person, really ready to be governor? Or is she just able to talk a good game? We're going to get into this conversation because it's being talked about right now on the national level. And there's merit, I think, to this debate. How much on-the-job training are we really ready to have, and how much value is it to know how the system really works? We'll talk about that after this.